I recently read Rest by Soojung-Kim. In the next few minutes, you'll learn why work and rest are partners, not enemies, why rest is far more active than you think, and how rest is a skill to be mastered. But first, tell me which of these three people you think is most productive. The first is leaning back in their office chair with their eyes closed. The second is on a walk during a work break. The third is busy crossing off items on their to-do list and responding to every Slack message the instant it pops up. It's obvious, right? It's actually not so obvious. What looks like idleness to an outside observer is a storm of productive activity inside the brain. The biggest myth about rest is that progress stalls when you rest. In reality, rest is when your brain does some of its most important work. Neuroscientist Marcus Rachel showed that a resting brain remains highly active, using roughly 95% as much energy as a working brain. This is because three things are happening during rest that can't happen when you're working. First, your brain consolidates what you just learned. Then it integrates that new knowledge with what you already know. And lastly, it quietly uses your stored knowledge to work through problems you're struggling with. That last job of the resting mind is why so many breakthroughs arrive in the shower, on a walk, or right after waking up. In one study, psychologist Benjamin Baird gave participants a hard creative problem, then split them into groups. One group pushed straight through. Another took a break to do an easy, unrelated task. The break group came back with significantly more original solutions. This is why I now think of work as a relay between my conscious working self and my resting brain. After a bout of work, I hand the baton off to my subconscious, which continues to make progress while I rest. This relay between conscious work and deliberate rest is why some people get so much done with so little work time. A survey of working scientists found that those working 20 hours a week outproduced those working 50. And scientists who put in more than 60 hours had the worst output, mostly because they never rested enough to have consistent breakthroughs. The scientist working just 20 hours a week is so productive because they've simply mastered the skill of resting. And you can too. Begin your pursuit of rest mastery by optimizing how you initiate rest periods and then improving the four most powerful forms of rest. 3 are familiar, but 1 is not. First, how to start resting the right way. Don't wait until you're empty to stop. Stop while you still have energy left in the tank. You'll need that leftover energy to kick off productive rest and give your brain enough fuel to keep working. The best time to stop is mid-task, with an unsolved question in mind. Think of it like creating a cliffhanger for yourself at the end of a great episode of your favorite TV series. The mind hates incomplete things. Leave a problem half solved, and your subconscious immediately gets to work, attacking the question from multiple angles while you rest. When you walk away in the middle of a task, make sure you set a very specific return time. Researchers call this the aware condition, and it has a noticeable effect when you return to your work. If you initiate rest by telling yourself out loud, "I'm coming back to this tomorrow at 6:15 a.m., your subconscious mind will do what is necessary to ensure you have answers at that time. Now that you're ready to rest, use one of 4 powerful ways to rest productively. You'll notice that none of them include scrolling on your phone. Here are the first 3 you're aware of, but likely aren't optimizing. 1. Full night's sleep or a midday nap. I covered the restorative power of sleep in depth in my Why We Sleep summary. Here's the main takeaway. Consistent, cold, and dark. Try to go to bed at the same time every day and eat as little as possible 3 hours before bedtime. Drop the room temperature by at least 3 degrees at bedtime and make your room as dark as possible. 2. Exercise. I covered the incredible effect exercise has on the brain in my Spark summary, but here's what you need to remember. Elevate your heart rate for at least 15 minutes to release the hormonal cocktail that restores the mind and enhances your ability to learn. 3. Walking. Walking is different from exercise in that it's less about the heart rate and more about the steady rhythm of your feet, which calms the mind. Associations form on a walk that won't form at a desk or in a gym. There's a reason Nietzsche claimed all great thoughts are conceived while walking. Now, the 4th form of rest is one people rarely think of as rest. That's because to an outside observer, it looks more like work. Author Alex Pang calls it deep play. Deep play is everywhere in the lives of high performers and prolific creators. Churchill painted 500 plus canvases while running a country and writing 40 plus books. Britton Chance, who published over 1,500 scientific articles and helped pioneer MRI, devoted his off hours to sailing and won Olympic gold in 1952. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, was rock climbing in the Alps when he wasn't working on his lectures. Deep play means pushing yourself in a different pursuit and developing skills. It's the opposite of scrolling on your phone or playing casual games. There are 4 components of deep play. The more you activate, the better. 1. Mentally absorbing. Rock climbing works because you can't think about your inbox while finding your next handhold. Competitive chess works because one distracted move and you lose. The activity must be as mentally demanding as your work, but without the stress of meeting deadlines and keeping your job. 2. Familiar skill in a new context. Activate your mental work muscles in a different medium. A writer who cooks is refining a meal on the stovetop to have the right taste, just as he refines a block of writing to have the right feel. It's counterintuitive, but working the same mental muscles doesn't exhaust them. It reinvigorates them for your next work session. 3. Similar satisfaction in a different medium. When Britton Chance figured out the wind and aligned his sailboat just right, he felt the same satisfaction as solving a problem in his lab. 4. Connected to your past. The piano you stopped playing in college or the sketchbook you worked in as a kid can give you clues to the restorative deep play you can engage in today. Hobbies you return to later in life tend to reinvigorate you most. The big lesson from all 4 deep play components is that deep play is not about turning off. It's about pushing yourself in a different endeavor, one you inherently enjoy and do for the sake of doing it. That's what great thinkers and prolific creators have known for centuries. So this week, pick one hobby that works your work brain and leaves you satisfied the way a good work session does. If you negotiate deals, try chess. If you debug software, try gardening. Lose yourself in deep play, and you'll return to work with a renewed capacity to solve problems. This is what Alex Pang means when he says, treat rest as work's equal and partner. Deliberate rest keeps you sharp and guards against intellectual atrophy. It rests your conscious mind while your subconscious homes in on a solution. This is your competitive edge in a world that takes too much pride in working insane hours and skipping breaks. That was the core message that I gathered from Rest by Alex Soojung-Kim. This book is essential reading if you want to be incredibly productive and creative over your lifetime. I highly recommend it. If you would like a 1-page PDF summary of the insights I gathered from this book, just click the link in the description below and I'll email it to you. If you're already signed up for the free Productivity Game newsletter, this PDF is in your inbox.